Hello and welcome. I am Laura Cragen, an intuitive eating and Christian life coach. I am so glad you're here. This podcast is for women who knows her health is a spiritual matter. If you're anything like me, you have probably heard the phrase mind, body, and spirit. But what does that mean? I am confident that I have found the details of those three God-given areas in our life. Specific mindset skills for our mind, intuitive eating for our body, and healing in Christ for our spirit. My hope is that as we discuss these life-changing lessons, we will be better able to fulfill our unique purpose in preparing for the second coming of Christ. I am so excited to have these wonderful conversations with you. Hello and welcome to the podcast. Summer's in full swing and it's a busy time right now for me. I went to Arizona, where I'm from, and for my grandpa's funeral, unfortunately, but it was actually a good time, and it was time for him to move on, and he was struggling for a long time, and he lived a good long life, and it felt good to get together with family and reconnect, and there was just a lot of love there, and it put life into perspective for a while for me there. So today we are going to talk about the third principle of intuitive eating, making peace with food. So what do I mean when I say make peace with food? It means to stop the war. All food is neutral. So yes, bear with me here. There is more nutritional value in a serving of asparagus compared to a bowl of cake batter ice cream. But that is a principle that we will learn later on, and we'll get to that. For this reason, you have to go in order for all of this to work, to go in order of these principles. With this huge overhaul of your relationship with food and your body, you have to start from square one. So think of your life like a Jenga game, if you know that game Jenga, with the blocks that you stack and you have to take them out. So when you take out one of the blocks, the tower falls, but before you're left with a lot of holes in this tower. So think of you starting from the beginning. Your tower has holes in it right now from before, and all these times that you've been dieting over these years. You've been broken and you feel like there's no hope with this food thing and your relationship with your body. And you feel like your health is taking over your life, either physically or even worse, mentally, and it usually goes hand in hand. So we can't just put back in those old blocks. We are deconstructing first. We have to tear it all down. It has to fall down. There's an order to this madness. We are knocking the whole thing over. From now on, all food is going to have a neutral perspective in your mind. This is critical from the beginning. You have to then put the blocks in order, and you will finally reconstruct a total new foundation so that you can trust yourself and your body again. The phrase that is used a lot is trust the process. So we talked about that a lot in my eating disorder center, actually. It is a process. It takes time. And you have to be patient. And as a cool fun fact that shows how powerful intuitive eating is, it is a major backbone in most eating disorder centers around the world. And it was in mine, and there's a reason. Because it works. But try to think of all food as completely neutral. So, another purpose for making peace with food, I want you to understand, is that it is finally there to stop the deprivation backlash. So when you finally give yourself that unconditional permission to eat, there is no need to backlash or make up for it later with a diet or over-exercising. I remember one time when I made a really nice birthday cake for my son, and it was one of those Cakes by Courtney recipes. If any of you follow her, she has wonderful recipes, and the pictures that she takes are beautiful. And I made her chocolate cake with peanut butter cream frosting. It was so good. And I decorated it nicely too, because presentation is everything for us girls, right? It was so good. And of course, I started attaching immoral adjectives to it, like, this cake is so sinful. I can't stop eating it. I'm just going to be bad today, and then I will be good for 2 weeks and not have any sugar. I totally binged a lot of that cake after the party, and I fell sick. That next couple of weeks following were so hard as I tried to keep my goal of no sugar for 2 weeks. Even though I had just had cake a few days before, I was craving what was left in my garage storage refrigerator so bad. I kept it in that refrigerator outside in the garage, hoping that I wouldn't think about it. But it was on my mind all the time. I still went back and had a few bites, and then I finally just binged on it again, and it was finally all gone. So much back and forth deprivation, backlash. And I'm sure you have been there too. So let's get into a cool activity that will help us explore this topic of making peace with food. This is actually really fun. It is going to be the best list you have ever made. So grab a pen and paper. Write down all the foods you like. Please pause and take time right now to do this. You can just stop the podcast right now and do this. Or if you can schedule the time later if you need to. Just 10 minutes. Try and make a point of doing this. Of writing down anything that you love to eat. Any meals, individual ingredients, desserts, foods you loved as a kid, etc. All things yummy to you. This is what I have done for my coaching clients. And they do this in their intuitive eating workbook too. And it is so fun. And it really kind of helps the process. Okay, now that you've done that, secondly, circle the ones you are not currently eating. This is the list of foods. Now, step 3, that you're going to start incorporating into your life. So eating those foods that we love really is part of making life wonderful and happy, and it's so important to your intuitive eating journey. So you've been depriving yourself of that for a while, and your body has been struggling with that for a while, and even just mentally that you put such a barrier there. So God gave us all these foods to enjoy, and we're going to start dealing with that. But let me get into some more specifics. So, like I said, put those foods on your next grocery list. Go out to eat and finally get the sushi you love, or go get your favorite flavor of ice cream at your favorite ice cream shop. This is going to be fun. And I have been through the experience before. And when I finally let myself eat all foods, I was in heaven. I had a lot of peanut butter and pasta. Not together, of course. This phrase is commonly called the honeymoon phase in intuitive eating. And it's really an exciting, important time in your journey. It is the time that your body can feel that there is going to be no defenses coming. There are no rules, and your subconscious mind relaxes, and your taste buds are on an exciting thrill ride for weeks or even months. Whatever it takes for you to get its wiggles out. Give yourself unconditional permission to eat. So I will be having a 5-day challenge on it on my Instagram this week, starting on June 28th, called the Best List Challenge, meaning you are incorporating these best foods you love from your new list into your life from now on. Those foods you always said no to or tried to push out of your mind. Of course, it takes longer than 5 days to truly do this honeymoon phase, but it is a resource for you to learn from me smaller details about it and to have a community around you and support you for just the 5 days. You will find a new post and several stories, Instagram stories, every day about it. We will talk about that big fun list, how to really start, and addressing 2 big concerns that come up when women start this. So my Instagram handle is @Laura Cragen, just my first and last name, or click the link below in the show notes. Find me there and jump in at any part of the week. If you don't have time, you have to jump in later. That's fine. I will also make a highlight bubble called the best list to store that info there too. So let me address those two concerns here as well. So first, I do not support gluttony nor binge eating. That's not what this is about. You will, on a small scale, know when you're really hungry and full and not just gorge. But you are still fresh out of the gate. Those steps are still new to you. The steps of honoring your hunger. And then later we will learn another important principle of feeling your fullness. So that's principle 5. And I will give you all those fine-tuned details about that when it comes, despite how easy and simple the title sounds. Yes, there will be times when you can kind of go hog wild or feel like you can or just want to, whatever it is. It will probably happen. And that's okay. It is part of it. Your body will learn how that experience felt when you went crazy with all you can eat wings at a restaurant on a Friday night with friends. You will take what you liked about it, which would be maybe I loved that I allowed myself to even have wings and that I even had an extra basket. But you'll leave the things that you didn't like about it from the experience. Like, I really didn't like having all those fries with it. Whatever it is in your situation. And a side note here, nutrition is still part of the intuitive eating journey, and it will be talked about later. It's principle number 10. And we have to heal this part first. So hang tight and trust the process. Secondly, second concern most women have is people tell me many times that they are not to be trusted if they give themselves all that free range with food. It seriously scares them, and rightly so. I can see why they feel that way, because I have felt that way too. That is a story. It's a story we've all told ourselves for years, right? However, this honeymoon phrase is a paradox. As you finally give yourself permission, you will surprisingly back off. You will maybe find that you really don't like Cheetos like you did before when your body was desperate for carbs during a macro cutting phase or during keto. But let me tell you a story about what I learned in my rehab center that I went to for a month when I was suicidal and working on my mental health. They talked about it in context of mental health, but it works here for intuitive eating. And of course, it's all about our mind anyway. So we were in our group room. There were about 12 of us in a circle. My therapist instructor passed out Chinese finger traps. Have you ever seen those? Those little tubes that you pull on with your fingers? He asked us, what do these have to do with our mental health? And we were confused and we all shook our heads and weren't sure. But someone mentioned that it might have to deal with letting go. And knowing that that's the trick to the game of the Chinese finger trap. It's the only way that the trap will work. You put your 2 fingers inside and most people tug right away to get their fingers out. But they come to find out that their fingers are trapped even tighter around the stitching of the finger trap. The instructor explained, that's correct. Let me explain. Many of you here are here because you have many life problems and traumas that are hard to let go. You hold on to them. You tug tighter to try to make them better. But in actuality, the freedom finally comes when you let go. So as a person stops pulling tightly, they will find that they can slowly and easily wiggle their fingers out and they are free. This concept is the exact same when it comes to making peace with food. We have pulled tighter and tighter for years, looking at the calories on foods, sucking in our belly more when we see those sliders at a potluck party in hopes that it will deter us, because nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, right? Or whatever kind of garbage we do or tell ourselves. Going through this phase will be hard, but I promise there's light on the other side. You will heal your relationship with all foods. You will heal your relationship with your inner confidence in making those choices and having a totally different and happier experience when you do allow yourself to have those forbidden foods. Things start to let go and you become free. And it is the best feeling in the world. So, you know me, and I like to make things come back in a full circle to the gospel as well. And as I thought about it, it clearly came up to me that I need to talk about how I and we all will make peace with ourselves. So it came up because, like I said, I need to deal with this too. And it definitely happened this past week for me. So I went on a vacation this past week to Arizona, a trip more like it. It's not necessarily a vacation when you have kids, but it was hard for me. Contrary to what I mentioned earlier, I was very overwhelmed by the long drive with kids. I had just added a new medication in my routine for my mental health, and I was on my period and having all the mood fluctuations. So there were a lot of stressors. Some deep depression came over me that I hadn't felt in a while. I felt so discouraged and was so frustrated with myself. I told myself, why am I still struggling with this when I have done so many things to overcome it? But that is what depression is. It is still always there. Sometimes you are completely normal, then moderate, and then sometimes intense episodes of despair come up. Even when I have medication or go to therapy, it comes and goes. So I had a dream one evening over that trip, and it brought me so much love and light to me. I was amongst a bunch of people, and we were all working on building a structure. We were all helping each other in making this structure, and I was working side by side with President Nelson. He noticed that I was having a hard time and looking depressed. He told me to look at him and take a moment to talk to him. So when I finally did, I looked up and he looked me in the eyes and said, "Laura, don't believe those lies in your mind. You are loved. You are on the right path. Please keep going. God loves you so much and will always be there for you." It was a powerful moment, and I felt the Spirit, even in my dream. It witnessed to me that He is a prophet of God, full of goodness and power. And also witnessing to me that He is a servant of Jesus Christ, a true servant of Him. As I looked into His eyes, I saw the countenance of Jesus. His eyes were the same as His, full of love and accepting. It was a wonderful dream, and it was definitely a tender mercy for me I needed. It's one way that God speaks to me. Over all these years, I love having dreams and feeling God speak to me through that way. And that is why I need to make peace with myself. I have spiritual gifts and a purpose here on earth. I am loved for who I am by a multitude of people, most especially the Godhead. I'll definitely treasure this dream and this gift I have, and that God guides me through the night. And He did that night as well, and I'll be truly at peace with myself, hopefully, as I keep pondering these eternal principles of love. So thank you, my friends, for listening, and I hope that you will join me in what I mentioned before, that best list challenge on Instagram. And if it is already past when you're listening to this, try to implement these things to start making peace with food. And of course, like I have mentioned before, I have a free guide, and it's called the 5 Steps to Start Intuitive Eating, that I really think would help you. There's a link for that below. And if you feel like you need more help, though, I would love to have you for a free first session. It is what I do, and I love what I do. Coaching is powerful, and I've seen women change their lives. So there's a link for that down below too. But appreciate you listening to me. Have a great week, and I'll be back in 2 weeks for another episode for the next principle of intuitive eating, Principle 4, Challenging the Food Police. So I'll talk to you then, and take care. Thank you for listening, and I hope today's show filled your soul and gave you the direction you were searching for in your health, life, and relationship with God. I would love to stay connected. Subscribe to my podcast so that you can be the first to know when new episodes go live. And it would mean so much to me if you would rate and review this podcast just down below. Your words inspire me and give me that boost to create more inspiring content to share. I would love to meet you on social media. Find me on Instagram and Facebook. Also, if this show really inspired you today, take a screenshot to share it on social media and tag me or click the share button to give it to someone else that would also benefit from these spirit-filled discussions. Let us all spread the good word of the gospel of Christ and help others in any way we can. Thank you again for listening today, and I look forward to connecting with you.